All right, so I am so excited to introduce you to our next guest because I think he's going to be incredibly helpful to so many in this audience. He's in our virtual green room right now. He's an attorney. His name is Richard Sierra, and his book, it's a perfect title, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. Who doesn't want to avoid business mistakes? Richard, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, boy, we've talked to a lot of lawyers here on Author's Corner on America Tonight, but I think you have really nailed the equation. And that's saying something because I do come from a family of lawyers too. So your language is very explicit. It's simple. It's easy to understand. What have you seen is one of the biggest problems that so many business owners face when they go into business?
I think one of the biggest problems that I see is that business owners, they tend to do things on their own. And business owners by nature are problem solvers. But one of the key common mistakes that I see is that they go into lease agreements, commercial leases, without having an attorney review those leases beforehand. And they just begin their business at a disadvantage. Leases are really written for the benefit of the landlord. And there are just so many different charges that are included in a lease that if they do not understand what they're getting into, at the end, they're going to run into some legal problems.
Yeah, and that can be from the length of the lease to things that happen, common things with AC, right?
Yes, I mean, what happened, there are different types of commercial leases, and a lot of them are like 25 pages long. They're written by very well-skilled attorneys, again, for the benefit of the landlords. But one of the things that I try to focus, and I mentioned this in the book, is like go to the various charges that their business owner is going to be responsible for. For instance, the maintenance of what are you going to be responsible for once you sign on that lease. So you go into a small commercial retail space, for instance, and the prior landlord, the prior tenant was there for 5 years. The AC maybe have 10 years of life. And then you go in there, you sign a 10-year lease. Most likely that AC will have to be replaced at some point within your lease term. So you have to make sure that you negotiate with the landlord. What's going to happen with that AC? Am I going to be responsible for, or will you be replacing that AC when it goes out?
And it's interesting because I think I obviously know the motivation, but what really drove you to decide, hey, I'm going to write this book?
I saw, I've been now in practice for 18 years. And I've spoken to a few thousand business owners throughout my career. And what I saw, a lot of the problems were repeated, were the same type of issues, whether they signed a contract without speaking with an attorney, they did not understand the terms, they went into a partnership with someone with an oral agreement and not a written document, they defended a lawsuit on their own. So I say, you know what? I think if I can reach a larger audience with the book, and maybe if I can save $10,000, a few $100,000 for a business owner by avoiding this landmine that at some point a business owner is going to face, then I've accomplished my job.
Yeah, and there you go. And it's perfect too for even your own clients, but for people that are listening to this show. And I said this at the beginning, and I know there are so many, Richard, that fall into this trap because they've sent me emails about it. There are some really great things that you mentioned in the book and ways to forecast what could happen, because that's the whole idea. There's we're going to give him one more thing that's really big, and I've fallen into this trap, I have to admit. What happens when someone close to you, your best buddy, someone in your family, you have a great idea. Oh, they want to help you. You want to get together. Let's do this. It's the Wild West. What happens with partnerships?
Partnership disputes is kind of a core central part of my practice. People go with greatest intentions going into partnerships. What I see here is that people do not put it in writing. A lot of oral agreements. They transfer money without understanding what other responsibilities are. And many times when you have partners that do not have their duties and responsibilities and obligations, more importantly, limitations in writing, that's when you're going to run into problems, misunderstandings that take place. And then ultimately they end up in an attorney's office, and then a lawsuit begins. So the best thing is, get it in writing. Even if it's a one-page document, you better do it in writing than do it in oral agreement.
Boy, no kidding. What do you hope people take away from reading your book, which is so easy to get on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them?
What I want to take out of the book is that, a business is a journey, and you're going to run into situations along the way that you were not expecting. And some of them might be minor, but some of them may require some legal intervention. So if the book might give you some of those red flags that you might face along the way, hopefully you will not face all of them. That would be a really bad year. But if you face one or two, and then you say, you know what, I read about this in this book, maybe I can get a lawyer. And if it keeps you up at night, it's time to call an attorney.
You know what? And that's kind of a good question to ask you as well, because as you said, you've been practicing for 18 years. You've seen thousands of people. If someone's looking for an attorney, it'd be great if they could go to you, but you can only represent so many people in your area. But what would you suggest they do when they're looking for an attorney? How do you find a good attorney?
An attorney, especially for business owners, the attorney has to be able to understand and relate to business owners. So, having that experience is significant because the business owners work with limited budgets. They work with a lot of stress. So you need to find an attorney that understands what a business owner goes through to relate to you, to be able to help you solve the problem as fast and efficiently as possible. You do not want to get into a long, drawn-out legal battle with anyone. It's just not cost-effective.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up in court, right? It's always messy when it goes to court.
Yes. Litigation is something that you want to avoid at all costs. Sometimes you have to go into litigation. If you can avoid it and solve the problem, that you're better off that way.
For you, what was it like writing this book? Was it challenging? Was it cathartic? Did it just feel good to get it out there?
I feel good. It's been 10 years in the making. And as I gained more experience, I was able to add more anecdotes and also a different perspective as well. And some of the mistakes I made myself along the way. I'm a small business owner myself. So it was very helpful, and I'm getting great feedback from my clients. They're excited when I sign a book for them and send it to them. So it's been a great experience.
For you in all these different people that you've represented, is there one story, and I'm sure you have a bunch of them, that you feel really good that you really kind of rescued the person from ending up spending more money and getting deeper into the stress and whatnot?
Yes, I met a couple during COVID that were going to buy a home health agency. They wanted to do like a nursing recruitment agency. They're basically going to take the money out of the 401k. And as I kept talking to them, asking them, this is your first business? They said yes. And they didn't have a business plan. And they were going to basically take all their savings and invest in a business that most likely would have failed, but for the consultation that they had with me. And I said, go back and do a business plan, do a financial analysis, make sure you have the cash requirements to support the business, and look at the challenges, and then come back to me and then decide whether or not you want to pursue this. And they, I was able to talk them out of that bad business. And then now they bought something else. So I feel very good about that.
Yeah, then you brought up something I think that's also really good to remind people, and you've probably seen this a lot. You gave them great advice, business plan. I mean, how many people don't really do the due diligence? Because it's true. You get excited. Someone says, hey, we can get this snow cone truck, and there's thousands of people in the neighborhoods that are going to come out. But then it's the cost. It's you dumping money into it from a 401k. That happens a lot.
Yes. And people have to be careful. Again, you go to those franchise shows and they have great opportunities, but people have to understand that you have to look out for yourself. And you have to have advisors that look out for you because they're there for a reason. They're going to sell you a franchise. They will give you a lease agreement. They're not there to protect you. They have greatest intentions. They're not doing anything wrong, but it's up to you to protect yourself with the right advisors.
Yeah, so it's I think that one thing that we've learned here for sure is get a lawyer, definitely ask questions.
Yes, absolutely.
And get this book because it'll help anybody in this listening audience. Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. Richard Sierra, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it.
Visit www.greatwritersmedia.com. Email us at info@greatwritersmedia.com. Call us at 877-600-5469. Subscribe now.